Dear students, barakallah fikum, and another video for what is the useful of using my hand calculator, the one that stuck with my hand during all the exercises and solving. And my advice to all the students that to work with your calculator, the one in your hand, or with the GeoGebra or Desmos program, not to be surprised in the new digital SAT for and be distracting how I'm doing this, how I'm doing that. And I can use the calculator to solve the second degree equation, the one in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, which can be written also as f of x is equal ax squared plus bx plus c, and how I can graph the parabola is open upward or downward. In case of a is greater than 0, positive value, it's open upward, but in case of a is smaller than 0, it's open downward. In the next slide, I'm going to show you how useful using calculator to find the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and how to find the factorization and solution of a quadratic equation in a quick slide, inshallah. Barakallah fikum. I hope you enjoyed it, inshallah. In the following question, we are going to understand how useful is using my calculator to solve the quadratic function in factorization or even the graph. And in my opinion, that you work with your regular calculator, the one in your hand, instead of using the one on the supported or provided to you in the exam test, because you may be distracted or confused of how to use it yet. This is my opinion, yeah, but of course you can work with it. But what I'm talking about that I have equation, and this equation is negative y squared plus y plus 6. This is called a quadratic equation. And to solve a quadratic equation, to find the solution or to graph the quadratic equation, you need to define what is the value of A and what is the value of B and what is the value of C. Where is A is the coefficient of x squared. So the coefficient of x squared here is negative 1 or y squared. And the coefficient of y here is 1. And the absolute value is 6. So I use my calculator, the regular one, press mode, equation, 3 because ax squared is number 3, and the value of a is negative 1, so I press negative 1, then I press equal, and the value of b is 1, and the value of c is 6. Then I press equal. It gives me that x1 is equal to 3 and x2 is equal to negative 2. But x1 is equal to 3 and x2 is equal to negative 2. Yes. So as we can see, if I add it into factors, so x minus 3 and x plus 2, the last sign is negative, but as we notice here, the coefficient of y is positive, so I should put negative outside the fraction. Why is that? Because the coefficient of y squared is negative 1, but if I multiply x by x, it will give me a positive 1. So in this case, don't forget that if you have negative outside the quadratic and you use calculator, you should add negative outside the brackets after you figure out the factors from using calculator. Again, one of the common mistakes that the students using calculator, it gives you two values, x is equal 3 and x is equal negative 2. If you plot the values of x is equal 3 and negative 2, and you grab the function like this, it's a quadratic function or a parabola that open upward. But notice that this is not the right answer. Why is that? Because the parabola is open downward. And why is that? Because the coefficient of x or y square is negative. So I should choose the answer that give me negative outside the bracket. So on the calculator, again, as we can see, the sign is negative 2, and here is the only answer. And it gives me the maximum value. What do I mean by maximum value? Maximum value is the x coordinate of the turning point. X is equal half, and y is equal 25 over 4. So the vertex is half and 25 over 4. So as we can see here, the vertex for the turning point and its maximum value. So it's open up downwards. So by using my calculator, I figure out the solution, I figure out the factors, I figure out the graph and where the vertex is. Mr. Hisham, if I'm using the graphing like this most the one that's using in the exam and I input this function, it will give me the answer. Yes, you are right. You are totally right. If I'm not looking for the final answer or I'm not looking for the factorization, maybe the graph will support you. But some of the students, if the equation is not written in the form of y is equal negative x plus 6, they may be distracted or confused or for how we can add it to your calculator. So I prefer if you are doing your work at home with one of the calculator, you can follow the calculator that using in your hand like this one. Or if you are going to practice, you can use the GeoGebra program or this most program, so to be familiar and not to be surprised in the exam day. Now, my dear students, Barakallahu fikum, I'm going to explain for you how we can use the same program as the one that we're using in the new digital SAT, that is Mr.com. So we can use the graphing calculator to solve the quadratic or the second degree equation. So you can choose between practicing yourself into this program or practicing yourself on using the calculator as I represented for you in the last slide. As we can see, it's the same example as the one that we solved it a few minutes ago. The function negative y squared plus y plus 6, and if the question is graph, or I'm looking for the solution, or I'm looking for factorization of this equation, negative y squared plus y plus 6. So if you press on the calculator in your digital SAT, it will open for you a slide or a window like this. So all what you have to do is to come here and write the function. I prefer to write the function in terms of x. So Mr. Hisham, can I write it f of x is equal, or I write it as negative x squared directly? I prefer if you can write it as negative, and you can use the calculator here, negative x to the power of 2 plus, let me move it up a little bit, plus 1y, so I'm going to transfer it to 1x, plus 6. As we can see clearly that here is the graph, the graph. So let's go to this graph, zoom in. So I can see that this point is 3 and 0, and this point is negative 2 and 0. So I figure out that the x-intercepts of the curve are 3 and 0 and negative 2 and 0. Again, here is negative 2 and 0 and 3 and 0. This is a coordinate of the solutions. So if I wanted to flip it into a factor of the function, I change the 3 into negative 3 and I change the negative 2 into positive 2. But as we can see clearly that the function is open downward, so I should have negative outside. And here is the common mistake that I'm looking about, that maybe you don't know that if the function is open downward or upward, you should change the value of a. So if it's open downward, the coefficient should be negative. So I figure out the factor, I figure out the solution. And if I move here down a little bit, zoom out, I will find that here is the vertex, half and 6.25. So the vertex is half and 6.25. And it's a maximum point because it's open downward. So I used in the last slide how we can figure it out with using the regular calculator, and now by using the same program in the digital SAT. My advice to you is to practice in which one you prefer to work with. So, my dear students, after I represent for you the last two slides, you have the right to choose between using your hand calculator, the one in your hand, to figure out the factors and to figure out the solution of a quadratic equation, or use the program that given to you in the new SAT. And by the end of this slide, I wish that you understand now and you can practice on your own how you are going to apply the using of calculator, not distract yourself in the exam day, inshallah. Barakallahu.